Good afternoon everyone. Welcome to the EduSat Network. Today we are going to talk about the vaccine policy in India, and for this we have our subject expert Dr. Y. Madhavi. She is a senior principal scientist, CSIR, NISTADS. She holds a PhD in radiation biology from JNU New Delhi, and we welcome you, ma'am.
Thank you. I can start.
And yes, we could start with the topic, and ma'am could at the beginning tell us what she will cover in the lecture.
Yeah, this vaccine policy in India is all about the decision making of vaccines, which vaccines should be to be included in national immunization program, and what is the technology behind it, what are the choices available, and based on what criteria one makes decision to include which vaccines into which immunization program is all about it, and also it is about the political economy behind the vaccines. I can if you look at a cursory glance at Indian vaccine scenario, vaccines are one of the important preventive medicines in primary health care. Besides sanitation, hygiene and safe drinking water to control the diseases in any nation. So vaccines are that way, they are very important in preventing infectious diseases, and they are important instruments in primary health care. So national health security is closely linked to self-reliance in vaccines and drugs. Since vaccines are given to all and to healthy population, unlike curative drugs, it needs a very stronger economic logic. That is why when making decisions to for vaccination, it is very important to go for evidence-based policies as well as stronger economic logics. Though vaccines constitute around 2% of the global pharmaceutical industry, they have become the growth drivers currently because of the availability of many more new vaccines which uses modern technologies, which are also very high expensive vaccines. And world vaccine market is growing and is around 22 billion it is estimated to be, which is also dominated by few multinational companies. In fact, even in Indian vaccine market is also huge, which is also around 2 billion, growing at 22% per annum. India is one of them largest vaccine makers and buyers globally, and currently there are 6 primary vaccines under Indian government's program, which is called Universal Immunization Program, also referred to as National Immunization Program. When it was launched in 1978, it was referred to as Expanded Program on Immunization. Under this program, there are 6 vaccines against tetanus, diphtheria, pertussis, tuberculosis, OPV, polio and measles. Recently, hepatitis B is also included in the National Immunization Program. These vaccines are given by the Government of India free of cost at the primary healthcare centers. Presently, the cost of all these vaccines which are under National Immunization Program is costs around 30 rupees per child. And to acquire full immunization, child requires 3 doses, and every year it is estimated that 25 million children newborn are born in India. So you have 70 million doses of 750 million of rupees are spent on only these 6 vaccines. However, in the post 90s and late 80s, since late 80s, in India it is I think in mid 90s, it has experienced a lot of several new vaccines are available in the market, which are highly expensive. If you compare the earlier 6 vaccines together, it costs 30 rupees, whereas these vaccines, each new vaccine costs from ranging from 45 rupees per dose to hundreds and thousands of rupees for various new vaccines which are available in the market. But for full immunization, you need 3 to 2 doses, and vaccine would cost around from several hundreds to several thousands of rupees per child. But if you have to introduce in national immunization program, if government has to buy these vaccines, one can imagine what would be the cost, how the immunization budget would be increased if one has to introduce these vaccines. That is the reason why in resource poor countries and like India, one has to think which vaccine should be included in national immunization program, where the burden is on public exchequer, and how a decision should be made and what are the criteria is an important issue. There are also academies like Indian Academy of Pediatrics. They recommend lot of all these new vaccines to be included in national immunization program. And it is also pointed out by critics that the industry basically lobbies with these academies to promote their new vaccines for their markets. Irrespective of their safety and efficacy issues, here there are 2 examples I have cited here, which are also contentious. So the debate is still going on, yet some countries have adopted them. In India, there is no data available on what is the incidence of pneumococcal disease, and whether that vaccine which is available is protects against Indian infants or not, because the strain variability is different. Similarly, rotavirus vaccine was actually suspended in US because of intersusception for quite some time. So this is only to tell you how the new vaccine issues are becoming contentious. And then to start the Indian experience, we have the advantage of becoming self-reliant in vaccines, as well as to be leaders of the world market also, because of our history, which is over a century old. In fact, modern medical research in India began with vaccines. India was that way an early bird in vaccines, a world leader in plague vaccine. Plague vaccine was developed here by Hafkin. And during British India only, Indian vaccine R&D was fairly institutionalized. That way we are at advantageous position. Indian government also took lead to encourage indigenous vaccine development after its independence, and also being the member of World Health Organization, it has availed international support since 1948. And government's official policy also favored self-reliance and self-sufficiency till 2005. In this table only, though it is not very clearly visible, will tell you that India is at par with technology development till 1930s. Afterwards, with Second World War and the existing vaccine R&D institutions have become obsolete, and it was not able to catch up with the current developments. Actually, in post 1990s, India adopted policies of liberalization, and there are also globally also a lot of changes were there. And on the other hand, there are a lot of modern, new products, new vaccines. As a result, there is a growth in the private companies which are producing vaccines. Otherwise, traditionally, vaccines are produced by public sector all over the world and are also supplied by public sector. Even R&D was also done in public institutions. They were produced and supplied by public sector units, and government used to fund these institutions. But in late 80s with the hepatitis B, the new vaccine which fetched lot of millions of profits to Merck company. Since then, the hopes of private sector have increased, and they started investing into new vaccines. So as a result, even in India, one can see that because of liberalization policies, public sector is no longer fashionable, and slowly public sector companies have been closed down. So you can see in this graph, the decline in public sector companies, and also the growth of private sector is due to new vaccines. And many of the companies stopped producing universal vaccines. As a result, there is a shortage in UNICEF procurement system also. UNICEF has acknowledged that many companies have declined producing primary vaccines. As a result, there is a demand gap between for universal vaccines has started increasing in India as well as in the world over. It is a phenomenon. Now as I have mentioned, this hepatitis B is a case it is an example. One can see, when the hepatitis B was, there was lot of pressure from international agencies and the companies to introduce in India also Indian immunization program. And then there was debate about what is the incidence levels, whether India needs to be included in, needs it actually or not. So there is no data available. But whatever data was available, and there was also debate on, medical community was divided on the issue of prevalence in India. One section said it is 4.7%, one person, according to another section, it is 2.1%, and carrier it is 1.7. And Indian government's institution Office of Registrar General of India, according to it, is also it is only 1%. Jaundice was 1% of all causes of death, because hepatitis B has similar symptoms. Hepatitis B, C, A all have similar symptoms. We don't have data due to which disease actually the jaundice is caused by. That kind of data is not available. So based on what incidence levels one would like to introduce it or not has become a debate at that time. In fact, US FDA licensed hepatitis B vaccine while pending safety studies. India also conducted a pilot study for which GSK has supplied free hepatitis B vaccine, for which there is no data available on efficacy and safety. And its cost benefit, its economics also, some doctors tried to calculate, and they said according to their calculations, the budget of buying a just hepatitis B vaccine would increase several fold. So much so, around 2000 they have done this study, and according to them it would be around 6 times that of malaria control program budget in 2000, or it is equivalent to 10 times TB control program of the Indian budget around that time. So it is not cost economical, because hepatitis B is not spread uniformly in the population. It should be given to selective immunization is a logical one, where only doctors and paramedical staff and which are prone to hepatitis B should be vaccinated. That was the contention of these authors. So this is a case of it, how it has started with new fascination for new vaccine market is started with the hepatitis B. This is on one hand, this is the price politics and profit politics of the vaccine industry. On the other hand, because of liberalization, the public sector had been got neglected. So as a result, there is a poor patronage, and Also there is frequent changes in production profiles. Though technology is at par, often it was used and dumped by all, because most often the private sector has actually borrowed, obtained seed virus from public sector units, and also they have employed also staff from public sector units who has the skills and experience in vaccine making. So that's why I said, though it is at par, it was often used and dumped by all, because mainly because of no policy support. Actually, till then, in fact, in 2008, there were 3 vaccine institutions which were 100 years old, like Pasteur Institute of India in Kunur, Central Research Institute Kasoli, and BCG Vaccine Laboratory in Chennai. These 3 institutions, which catered to 83% of the country's immunization needs, were closed down on the pretext that it is not WHO GMP compliant, and it was done during the then Union Health Minister Anbumani Ramdas time, and that was also the time where more favorable policy support was given to private sector as well as public private partnerships, where most often it is the private sector which was getting benefited and public sector is getting the beating. And apart from, besides the policy thing, even the existing vaccine institution, there were their institutional problems also added to them, like there was routine production pressures and declining emphasis on R&D, so that they can, and that is also reason why they are behind, and excessive dependence on abroad, rigidities in recruitment promotions, poor linkages, institutional mechanisms, obsolescence of R&D infrastructure, governmental neglect of GMP. Because why I say governmental neglect of GMP, because all these institutions are under the very own its own Union Health Ministry, which they did not receive lot of funding and support from their own ministry. That is also the reason why they have been neglected, and all combined together led to the closure of all these vaccine institutions. I have listed 23. Actually, there were around 30 vaccine institutions in various states under various state governments, which were actually making and supplying vaccines to national immunization program. All these were closed down in 2 decades. By 2008, as I have mentioned earlier, right now only the first, by 2008, the first 3 vaccine in public sector vaccine institutions were functioning, and the ones in the green 4, 5, 6, as I have said, they were suspended in 2008 in during, on the alleging that it was not GMP compliant. But after Ghulam Nabi Azad became the minister, he has appointed a committee to look into the closure of these vaccine institutions, and which was chaired by Dr. Javed Chaudhary. Under this committee's recommendations, they have been revived, given with giving time for them to become GMP also. But it, anyway, though they have been revived in 2010, still they are not fully functional. They are very slow right now. So this is what has happened with the liberalization policies, and also not only this, it affected actually led to the acute vaccine shortages, and also gaps of demand supply gaps for UIP vaccines increased following 2008. In around 23 states there were shortages. Sometimes not all 3 doses were present. As a result, the many children got affected. In fact, the adverse immunization effects following immunization have actually increased after 2008. Okay. So this is, on one hand, public sector actually got attenuated. On the other hand, afterwards, following these periods, there is also pressure from international agencies and WHO and the industry that India should include influenza type B vaccine also in its immunization program through pentavalent vaccine, which is a combination of DTP, which is a universal vaccine covered under universal vaccine, and a new vaccine hepatitis B and HIV. And this is also under lot of controversy. For last 5 years, a lot of literature and debate has been published in medical journals as well as in public space. There is a lot of debate is going on. Once again, medical community is divided on this. Mainly it is about its incidence, I mean whether there is evidence available for the hepatitis and influenza type B incidence in India. Whatever evidence is available from Indian studies, it is found that it is incidence is very rare, death is even rarer. And pneumonia and meningitis due to influenza type B are also less in India. In fact, in Indian children acquire natural immunity to HIV during infancy, and diagnosis and treatment are also available and affordable. Treatment is also available through antibiotics, which costs around 30 to 40 rupees. There is no clear proof of imported vaccine suitability to Indian population. So, overall public health justification for influenza type B mass vaccination is poor. So, without standalone merit, how HIV can be justified as a combo vaccine is the debate which is going on. And safety of the vaccine, okay, one is the need, I mean incidence levels are not justified whatever based on whatever evidence is available. The safety of pentavalent vaccine is also under scrutiny. Before India introduced, there are countries like Pakistan, Bhutan, Sri Lanka have introduced this vaccine in their countries, in Vietnam also. I mean here this slides shows various deaths occurred. Immediately after deaths, these countries have halted the vaccination and looked into it, the reasons and why they basically reevaluated. So, based on these deaths, here also a section of community in India, in the Indian doctor medical communities has also requested ministry, our health ministry, to re-look into the issue, but even then Indian government went ahead due to international pressure and Gavi's pressure to introduce in southern states as an experimental basis in southern Indian states. There also children died soon after the immunization in Kerala, Tamil Nadu, Haryana. So, safety is an issue, and when it comes to cost beneficial, generally any vaccine before it is introduced, its need, its safety and efficacy and its cost benefit analysis are generally assessed in any country. Generally developed countries, that is how they adopt their vaccines in their national immunization program. If you look at it here, the cost of the vaccine is 525 rupees combination vaccine pentavalent, but individual vaccines are less price. Even the price is much more than the combined price of each individual vaccine. And there are also, I mean some children are also dying. So, this is estimated by one doctor who said that to protect, because in India the incidence is 7 per 1 million, to protect I mean 25 million children are there, out of them 1750 children are affected. To protect 1750 children, you are vaccinating 25 million children while risking 175 deaths. So, is it really justifiable? That is the question they are asking. And not only that, pneumonia is, HIV causes pneumonia finally, which is fatal. That is why one is saying you should protect your child with HIV vaccine. But pneumonia is also caused by other causes like bacteria, fungus, virus, alcohol, smoke and other causes. So, it does not give protection against pneumonia. So, is it really cost effective when it comes to making decisions for entire country is an issue of debate, which is an important issue in decision making. Okay, this is, but why there is so much pressure from international agencies on pentavalent vaccine to be introduced in national immunization program? Generally, the vaccines price is dependent on economies of scale. It is introduced in US, but it is introduced as a hepatitis B, HIV only. But if it is introduced in large countries like China, India and Brazil, its price will come down. That is also politics behind it. That's what was pointed out by various magazines in Nature and in newspapers have reported. Okay, I have given an example of pentavalent vaccine and new vaccine hepatitis B. Now, one is looking at actually what are the safety efficacy issues of combination vaccines in general. Pentavalent vaccine is an example of combination vaccine, and similarly there will be many more combination vaccines are there. Literature is available to point out that combination vaccines are protective. Vaccines are less protective when compared to their individual components. Even safety issue is also the same. I have given only few examples here to state. Another interesting thing is, if you look at the list of combination vaccines that are available in Indian market, if you see, the combination is always with a vaccine which is under National Immunization Program or UIP, and with a new vaccine. It's always like that. Even in international market also, if you see the combination vaccines, that is how it is. So what is it? Why don't they combine? The industry don't want to combine all new vaccines together or all primary vaccines together. It is basically industry's ploy to create demand for a new vaccine by tagging along with the UIP vaccine, by basically piggy riding on the through the UIP vaccine into national immunization program. Basically, it want to capture the universal vaccine market by piggy riding along with the universal vaccine. That is why the industry is always combining with universal with non-universal vaccines, and it doesn't even give the price advantage either to the consumer, because the cost of DTP, which costs around 3 rupees, will come in the combination jumps to 17-fold. At least with hepatitis B, that is what is the case. So basically, combination vaccines are nothing but you add them and multiply prices. I say add them also because they are cocktail vaccines. They are not genetically engineered to are designed into a single epitope to protect against various diseases. They are actually put in a vial, various vaccines, and given. It is only basically to give price advantage to them, and moreover it also gives IPR advantage to the company, because any new combination like irrational drugs, any combination becomes a new product. So basically combination vaccines are a industry's ploy to get price advantage as well as IPR advantage. But from national country's point of view, for a decision making point of view, one has to be critical. It is actually, the issue is not finding evidence for a combination already made, but making only evidence based combinations with proven need. What is good for industry is not necessarily good for public health all the time, and DTP is a major breadwinner for vaccine PSUs. Suspending vaccine PSUs, what happens is, even the private companies are producing DTP, they are making only combinations, but they are not supplying to immunization program. That is why there is a shortage for universal vaccines. So actually the growth of private sector in new vaccines has not helped shortening the demand supply gaps for universal vaccines. And besides this, there are also international factors. Around that time in post 90s, again when there were a lot of new vaccines are available and some are in the pipeline, several global alliances are formed in like CVI, Child Vaccine Initiative, Global Polio Vaccine Initiative, International AIDS Vaccine Initiative, Global Alliance for Vaccines and Immunization, Malaria Vaccine Immunization. Like this, several alliances were formed, but their emphasis is mostly on introduction and coverage in the developing countries. Introduction, but they have not looked into the how much protection actually achieved after immunizing with the new vaccines. Nobody has checked it. That kind of studies were also not initiated. Also to promote this introduction and coverage of more coverage and more protection, more the disease will come down. It was only campaigned like that, but actually data was not shown to check whether the how much protection was achieved. And to promote this, various ways were invented, because because government buys and gives it to the public in countries like India. So government has to bear the budget if they have to include them in its immunization program. So they have invented things like advanced market commitment, industry sponsored advocacy, and also inbuilt cash incentives were given to promote vaccines in various countries, to introduce them in public immunization programs. So though there are the globalization of vaccine policies, slogans, new intellectual property rights, world trade regimes, and WHO pre-qualifications, uniform standards for all over the world for GMP. GMP is good manufacturing practices, good lab practices, and UNICEF procurement system. Though they appear to be giving uniform standards, actually they tend to de-link vaccine adoption decisions from incidence levels and other local evidences that are more essential for the vaccines to be available to the masses which actually need them. So most often actually these new global alliances influences advanced market commitments. They in turn also aid politics, loan politics, distort our national priorities of vaccine decision making. And increasingly, if you see in the last 2 years, the one vaccine fits all, one policy fits all, one practice fits all is increasingly becoming the slogan of the vaccine use, while the protection is being neglected. So in response to these trends, actually in India, several NGOs and civil society was up against it, which is evident from the fact that there was a PIL against PSU closure in Supreme Court, and also against pentavalent introduction. Another PIL is in High Court. And in fact, everybody, you all must have read in newspapers, HPV vaccine unethical clinical trials were there, and there was a lot of campaign against it. Even OPV failure in India is also a contentious issue, which is still going on if one looks into it deeply. So around that time, several stakeholders came together and formulated an evidence-based national policy, which includes technologists, economics, epidemiologists and all. They drafted and published a paper in ICMR. Later, because of PILs in the court, the ministry had to formulate a national vaccine policy. In Ministry of Health and Family Welfare came up with its own national vaccine policy, which was released in 2011. But this policy actually legitimizes whatever is the trends which are going on in India, where there is no regulation on Indian private industry or the clinics, or also though they were like a guidelines, policy guidelines, but they were not mandatory. Like for example, epidemiological evidence or suitability to Indian pathogenic strains are not mandatory, because if you take vaccine from outside, one is not sure whether it is suitable to Indian community, because here the strains, disease causing strains may be different. These are the very important points why these evidences are important for a national decision making or for local decision making. So those issues are not addressed properly in this policy document. There is also no option to choose between universal or selective immunization strategies. If this option is not utilized, then there will be, I mean, unnecessary wastage of money will be there for any, whether you need it or not, one is going to spend vaccines. Also, lot of cocktail vaccines and combinations vaccines are also going into seeking backdoor entry to universal immunization program. If there is this new thing called advance market commitment, where governments where industry make a commitment to the government, which is actually mediated by Gavi, Global Vaccine Alliance for Immunization, that you buy certain amount of it requests governments to buy certain vaccine from certain company for so and so price. So you are committing in an advance. So that way, if India has to sign through to obtain this vaccine through Gavi's help, then Gavi has already, for example, pentavalent vaccine, Gavi has already signed with the GSK companies, like multinational companies. So tomorrow, if pentavalent vaccine is introduced in India, India has to buy from other companies to whom Gavi has committed, rather than our Indian domestic companies like Serum Institute of India or Panacea would be supplying it. So that way, even domestic market will be killed in this this mechanism. So one needs to be very cautious in exercising these options offered by international agencies. So this is also distorting our policy of self-reliance and self-sufficiency. So basically, the conclusion is our vaccine policies are currently, despite a national vaccine policy document, are shaped by supply push articulated by industry and international relations and pressures, and often quality GMP are used to procure vaccines from particular countries and companies. So the recommendations are basically vaccines must be governed wisely and not as a consumerist ideology of public health. And Indian universal immunization program vaccine system needs capacity expansion rather than market expansion, and strong public sector for UIP vaccines, and also indigenous development of vaccine should be a policy that will only take care of health security of the nation through vaccination. And one needs to synergize other relevant policies with vaccines for public.
Okay, thank you so much, ma'am, for the very lucid presentation, and we were able to gauge a lot about vaccines and also the vaccine policy in India, also what goes behind the scene and the political angle to it. So ma'am, since you were talking about vaccine seeking diseases, so so now vaccines are not made to control, but
no, I put it as a sorry, ironical statement. No, vaccine seeking diseases.
Yes, I wanted
it's
to ask you about that.
It's a critique of vaccine, the policy draft which have come up by the government. You see right now what is happening is generally how vaccines are developed based on your disease pattern. If when the research goes accordingly, you will prioritize your research and do it. But right now what is happening is, for whatever vaccines are available in the market, for them the research is going on backwards. For example, rotavirus vaccine. Before that, in our India, there is no documentation, only specifically marketed what are the rotavirus disease causing pathogens, what is its incidence and all. Once the vaccine is available, when there is a promotion, then one started looking up. There is also funding available to look at various strains, rotavirus causing strains, whether they are different from ours and the vaccine which is made from other countries. So that's how actually it has, even for HIV, we never did any studies. That's why the data is not available. But once the HIV vaccine is available, Then there are WHO, there is also another INCLIN study. They are all giving funding to look at Indian HIV data so that
Okay.
they can justify their introduction, this vaccine
Of the
introduction
vaccine,
in
yes.
India.
Okay.
That's, I put it as an ironical.
Right, yes, I found that catchy and I wanted to talk about it.
Mm.
So does it also mean that since there is not much research that is being done behind the vaccine, it's just being introduced, does the quality of the vaccine suffer? Is it such a good quality vaccine then?
You mean for which vaccine?
Where you said that we are developing vaccines but there is not data available. Say not much research is done. So
Developing vaccines independently, vaccine research is also again dependent on fund availability.
yes,
Like for AIDS vaccine, there is a lot of funding is
Yes.
available. People are working on it. For example, in our, in India, tuberculosis is there.
yes,
It's a major top killer disease. Diarrhea is a top killer disease. So one can actually look at Indian prioritizing diseases according to prevalence of the diseases present in India.
right,
Accordingly one can do. That's what I mean. When I
right,
said.
right.
But whatever vaccines, primary vaccines which are available, they are quality vaccines only. So far,
Okay.
no. Like for new vaccines, you have seen the deaths have reported,
Yes, you were-
immunization
huh.
effects. Those were not there with other primary vaccines which are there, which I
Right.
have listed.
Right.
Except for measles vaccine, I think few years back, 2-3 deaths were found. And OPV was anyway contentious issue.
Right.
Wild polio virus and
Okay.
polio was actually caused after vaccination. That
Oh.
has that is a very contentious issue. It
Right.
is still going on. If you rake up now any NGO, they would know. Any health worker, no, they know why there is also again a whole lot of politics behind OPV.
Okay.
Pushing OPV as a vaccine
Okay.
in our country, though it is not working in.
Right. So, if I have rightly understood that polio happened as a result of a certain vaccine.
Yeah, in
Okay.
polio.
It wasn't there earlier.
No, earlier it was there. Initially, India, WHO recommended that OPV is because it is oral vaccine. Easily you can administer it, and it's a cheaper vaccine, and it's a live oral vaccine. It will give you
Right.
protection. You should introduce. But in India, the cases started increasing even after vaccination. So one
Vaccination.
could have actually, to go about it scientifically, no, one could have actually looked at it, comparatively looked at it. That time, even injectable polio vaccine is also available. That also one could have done a technology evaluation studies.
Right.
And
More
see,
research.
it may not suitable to us, no. In one community, one vaccine is suitable. In Philippines, it may not be suitable.
Right.
So it may be protective. They see we using OPV in Western countries, they have eradicated polio.
Polio,
But in
okay.
India, it is not. If that is the case, one should have checked it whether that technology is not working for us.
Whether
An
it-
Indian
yes.
population, maybe it is not working. Maybe we should use some other.
Use
vaccine.
something
That
else.
should have been done rather than
Right.
going on giving, and 25 doses also they keep giving, and no
Right.
studies are done to actually evaluate it.
Right.
Follow-up
Okay.
studies. That would have helped. So
Okay.
basically, scientific evidence should be the basis for any
Right.
kind of policy decision making.
So, ma'am, how effective is the polio vaccination now? Is it still working better, or do we still have cases where the vaccination is given but it's not working?
WHO has recently declared India as a polio free.
Okay, that's
But
wonderful.
though there have been incidents that it is increasing. It's there even in southern states where they said that it was decline. Have new cases have shown up. But what happened is, in between they have also changed the definition of polio cases.
Okay. Okay.
That is, again, if you go into it, deep into it, there is a whole lot of debate about how they have diluted the definition.
Okay.
How do you diagnose whether they have a polio or not?
Okay.
So they take the tool samples, and there is certain criteria on that. Those were diluted. As a result, you don't find many
Okay.
polio cases.
But there are,
because of the dilution of
because of the
thing,
definition. Right.
which has been reported and criticized by health workers and
Yes.
I mean even in medical journals
Yes.
also it's been much debated.
Okay, okay. Thank you so much for educating us on this. And also, you mentioned something like one vaccine fits all.
Why I am saying is one vaccine fits all. See, vaccines are made from biological pathogens, and they vary. They have lot of variation in strain specificity. Subspecies are also there. The pathogen which is present here may not be the same in other countries.
Right.
So that is why you need what is the strain variant. If there is a resemblance, then maybe that vaccine is useful to us. For example, I think I have shown pneumococcal vaccine. Pneumococcal vaccine, I think. There, the pneumococcal vaccine is, there are two vaccines available. One is 7-valent, another is 23-valent. The 7-valent vaccine is protective in in some parts of the world, but in India they are not, because whatever pneumococcal pathogen which is available here in India, its strain is different from that. So even if you take that imported vaccine, it may not giving protection to the pathogens present in the Indian population.
Right.
So that's how I mean that they may not be suitable.
Right.
That is why I insist, for vaccines, local policies are important, local evidences are important. You make vaccines from Indian strains,
Right.
you make your own vaccines, then they will protect your
Right.
population.
Right.
So that should be the right policy, rather than depending so much on other countries where
Right.
there is a chance of not suitable.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
that's the.
Ma'am has rightly explained how the idea of one vaccine fits all, which it does not. So it depends on from country to country. It may even differ from age wise, different ages, age groups, the vaccine.
More than age groups also, one need to test and say for which group it is working or not. But more than that, the strain specificity variation is the most crucial
Okay.
factor. That's why I say vaccine suitability. So one vaccine fits all cannot hold true here. Like for curative medicine, there is a synthetic molecule. For people who are sure of having a disease, you are giving a medicine, so you can treat them. So you are sure of treating a person. But here it is not like that. Because of strain variability, it is
Right.
difficult, and you cannot say it is suitable for all populations.
Right.
That's why I'm saying it is becoming ideology, basically to suit the industry needs rather than public health.
Rather than the public health. Yes, ma'am. You were also talking about the pentavalent vaccine and how that some children also died
Yeah.
after they were administered with the drug. So, why was it not? Was it tested on animals before, or was it again one vaccine fits all idea?
No, for any vaccine, before it is introduced in the immunization program, it has to be licensed. Even before it is licensed, animal studies are done, and only once it is approved that it is shown safe and efficient, then only they will go in.
Okay.
They do it phase 2 or 3 trials. In that they give it to a small sample of population, and they check in that population. If it is safe, then only they introduce it in the
Okay.
national
Okay.
immunization program. It's not that they must have done. That's why I have explained in that slide, no, and hepatitis B, this one, which one I'll show you. That there is a likelihood of 10% mortality rate in this slide. HIV vaccination.
And does
because
this,
based on the deaths reported, some doctor has calculated and said this is the death rate once you vaccinate, it is at 10%.
okay.
So
For
but
any
even
vaccine.
then it is not for all vaccines. It differs from vaccine to vaccine.
Okay.
For example, DTP is a combination vaccine.
Right.
It's
Yes.
a time tested combination. So far there are no issues in it.
Okay. Okay.
TT is also 100% safe and efficient vaccine. So far
Okay.
nothing
Right.
has been found so far. Measles vaccine is highly I mean, stringent conditions has to be maintained for sterility. Otherwise, it may cause problems.
Right.
So, like that, for each vaccine, it is different
It is
because it is
different.
a pathogen dependent biological organism whose nature of infection and transmission differs from pathogen to pathogen. That's why it
Okay.
is quite complex.
Okay. Right. So, as you mentioned, the pentavalent vaccine, a few deaths occurred. Has it been discontinued or is it still in use?
It is still in use in southern state, Kerala, Tamil Nadu,
Okay.
and even after they were reported, immediately in southern states, another PIL was filed in High Court also, and also doctors have written to Health Ministry asking them because later they wanted to expand it to northern states.
Okay.
So before introducing them, please reevaluate once and then
Yes.
do it.
Yes.
But I don't think nothing has happened. Afterwards, they introduced in Haryana immediately.
There was
or
one
two
death
children,
occurred, yes.
occurred.
So,
Actually, right now, I think I didn't mention the figure here. In total, in the last 2011, they have introduced 2011 December, I think, and so far around 83, I think, if I remember correctly, deaths have been reported all
Oh.
over India due to
because of
pentavalent
the
vaccine.
same vaccine,
Same
and it's
vaccine.
still being used.
Huh, huh.
What
And
is
still
it
being
for?
used, still being contested also by civil society, and
What is it
It's
for, ma'am? What does
it's
it
for
cure?
it protects against DTP, that is diphtheria,
Okay.
pertussis, and what is it, tetanus,
Okay.
and that is an UIP vaccine. And hepatitis B. HB is hepatitis B, and HIB, influenza type B.
Okay.
It's like flu.
It's
Influenza
like,
type B
okay.
is like
Okay.
flu.
So,
Some kind of.
also, ma'am, I wanted to ask you, since there are so many diseases and a vaccine for each one, so which vaccines are made available free of cost by the government, and even in private hospitals, which vaccines are free of cost?
Actually, free of cost are given in government primary health care centers
Okay.
by the which is provided by Government of India all over India in
Yes.
various primary health care centers. They are only these 6 plus hepatitis B, TT, DT, DPT, measles, OPV, and BCG. BCG is
Okay.
for tuberculosis and hepatitis B. The rest of the vaccines are not introduced in our immunization program, so government is not giving free of cost.
Right.
Only private clinics, if you go to any private clinic, any pediatric clinic, you have a list of vaccines, and to take those vaccines, child has to make 27 visits
Yes.
to the doctor, and moreover scientifically also, what happens to the child's immunity if you pump so many pathogens like this is not clearly understood. That kind of scientific studies have not been done
Right.
so far. So it is also contentious issue. I mean, child immunity is developing at that stage. You are pumping so many vaccines, and whose safety and efficacy is also not clearly proven.
True.
For each vaccine, I don't have enough time, but I can give you the literature available and various contentious issues being
Right.
discussed for many of these new vaccines.
Right.
Vaccines are important, but before introducing these vaccines, you ensure its safety, efficacy, and then give it to the public. That is my
Right.
point. Even if
Right.
it is expensive, it is proven. It's proven. If you really need it, even if it is expensive, if it is safe and efficient, government should provide it.
Provided. Yes.
If it is not needed, even though there is a good vaccine, you shouldn't give. That's
Yes,
what I
absolutely.
think.
Yes.
Because it's unnecessarily, wasting your money, budget.
Absolutely, and
Only-
may damage
yeah.
the health also.
Yeah, it will. Yes.
Yes. So, ma'am, you talked about 27 vaccines which are given to a newborn, say 27 times the
Visits
child
they
has
have
to
to-
visit. So, is it the same pattern in other countries also, probably in the West?
No,
Do
in
they
the
follow
West,
the same
in
pattern?
other countries, each country adopts various vaccines in its immunization programs.
Okay.
So our list of primary vaccines list may be different from their vaccines, but
Right.
most of them have introduced a lot of new vaccines in their national immunization. Like hepatitis B, several countries have included, even HIB also. pentavalent vaccine in Asian countries it is causing a problem. HPV vaccine also.
Right.
That is also another contentious issue.
Okay.
I mean vaccine which is being debated.
So despite the fact that it's a harmful vaccine and PILs have been filed, it's still not being discontinued.
No, it's
Okay.
not been discontinued. Actually, for pentavalent vaccine only there was this intermediate court order saying that they should government should make a vaccine policy to take right decisions for the right kind of vaccines. So
Okay.
that's how the policy draft has come up.
Okay.
But it did not take care of whatever
Right.
trends which are going on.
All right. So, ma'am, I also wanted to ask you if one needs to self-educate about vaccines. If, for example, if I want to know about vaccines, what is the purpose of which vaccine, and at what age should one get a certain vaccine, where can I go to learn about it, or can I do some course, or can I read some book? Can you tell us how I can do that?
Course. There is no specific course like that.
Maybe
unless
any
which is
book or
written.
anything updated on the government's website, or
To know about vaccines and diseases and vaccines, no, there is this book called Park and Park.
Park and Park, a book. Okay.
Is there? There is another book by.
Park and Park is the publisher?
No, they are authors. I don't remember exactly.
Okay,
Maybe
okay,
I will
ma'am.
let you know later. Of course, in websites also, but authentic sources. This is one book which talks about epidemiology
Alright.
mainly. In
Okay.
that they have mentioned vaccines.
All right.
And there is also book by Levin.
Levin.
Levin. There are several editions have come up.
All right.
In it also you get the basic information about
Right, right.
vaccines industry and
Okay.
R&D.
Okay. All
Everything you can.
All right. So I hope the listeners also caught in this point about what they can read. So today we discussed the vaccine policy in India, looking at the relevance of various vaccines, which are good, not so good, and also what goes behind the scene and what is the politics behind how some vaccines are produced. So thank you so much for listening, and we would also like to thank ma'am for being here and for sharing her ideas and sparing her valuable time. Thank you, ma'am, and thank you, listeners. Have a good evening.